During the weekday morning hours, Chris Prince is delivering mail in Ypsilanti, Michigan for the U.S. Postal Service. Come late afternoon, he's a respected voice in the fantasy sports world.
What's going on, grinders? Welcome back in. Chris Beermakersfan Prince here with the Daily Fantasy Six-Pack.
As 1,500 players tune into his daily webcast on a site called RotoGrinders.
There's not a ton of options at shortstop tonight.
What has made Prince a legend in this space is his winnings at daily fantasy games, an alternative to season-long fantasy where teams are picked daily and prizes are awarded at the end of the night.
How good are you at fantasy?
I think I'm very good. I would put myself up against most, if not anybody in the industry.
Prince says he doesn't know his net earnings, but says he's made a profit in each of his 5 seasons. In some years, he has made more from fantasy than from the post office, and he used that extra money towards his new house.
So when you went to your accountant and you saw the line item of fantasy winnings, what did he say?
It was, how do we classify this? We don't know where it goes. Is this income? Is it this, that? Now I have an accountant that knows how to handle it.
Each day, Prince logs into Fanduel, one of the daily fantasy market leaders, and sets multiple lineups using the site's salary cap system based on players' daily success.
How much are you throwing in here?
This will be a $50 head-to-head game.
And how much can you...
On a given day in the baseball season, he says he usually has about $1,000 on the line. Since football has fewer games, he might have $5,000 on the line in any given NFL week.
As I've been more successful, your bankroll grows. You can afford to go up to those type of levels. But it's definitely a growth pattern where some people try to jump in and put their life savings in daily fantasy, and things don't go well.
FanDuel boasts of Prince's winnings of more than $650,000 on its website and through its marketing. Prince is also paid to endorse the company.
We use him in our marketing. He's very public about how much he's won, but there are a number of players at that level. Chris is just one of them.
Tom Griffiths is FanDuel's chief product officer and a co-founder.
The biggest sites get bigger because we're offering the biggest prizes. We can attract more players and therefore offer bigger prizes. So there's a network effect or a virtuous circle upwards.
FanDuel does not disclose how many players are ultimately winners over time. But the site, which has received $18 million in venture capital funding, recently disclosed its most current financial history, including revenue taken in from entry fees and money distributed in prizes. This chart shows the explosive growth of daily fantasy leagues in recent years. In 2011, the company took in more than $11 million and gave out more than $10 million in prizes. This year, the company took in close to $32 million in April alone, and estimates it will take in roughly $450 million in entry fees by year's end, while awarding 91% of that back to the players. According to the Fantasy Sports Trade Association, even though just 1% of fantasy sports players play daily, they account for 26% of all money played in the entire fantasy sports industry.
It's growing 2 to 3 times every year, bigger than the last year. Every week, it seems, there's a new daily fantasy competitor popping up. We stopped counting around 45.
Here at FanDuel headquarters in New York, employees monitor daily games on computer screens until baseball lineups have to be locked at 7 p.m. Eastern. Daily fantasy sites are required to disclose the prize pool in each game before the entries are made, but there's no other governmental monitoring or traditional gaming taxes. So how exactly is daily fantasy legal when gambling online is illegal? In 2006, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act clarified online gambling regulations. The law says any participation in a fantasy or simulation sports game is exempted on the grounds that it has an outcome that reflects the relative knowledge of the participants, deeming it a game of skill.
Just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's right, and it doesn't mean that it's good social and economic policy.
Gambling expert John Kint says he believes daily fantasy is more a game of luck and that the fantasy sports loophole in the 2006 law shouldn't exist.
It was not the intent of Congress to allow these daily fantasy games and to cross the threshold into gambling. When you marry electronic gambling, which is known as the crack cocaine of hooking people into gambling with sports, with the risk-taking ambiance of young people, you're going to see a huge explosion in these types of endeavors.
45 states currently allow its residents to play fantasy sports for money, and none of those states has taken any action against daily games. But Kint says he believes the tide will soon turn as the scope of the new business has been realized.
Fantasy sports has got a target on it. It's got a target on it from Congress. It's got a target on it from the legal community.
Fanduel executives acknowledge that its typical players are in their mid-20s and likely more drawn to the instant gratification of daily fantasy. But they contend that the record of their top players shows that it's more than a game of chance.
We can show statistically that it's a game of skill. So we see our top players consistently winning, and we see, unfortunately, the players that aren't that skillful tend to get better over time but don't necessarily always compete well with the high-skilled players.
FanDuel says they know of dozens of players who now play daily fantasy as a primary job.
Are you at all close to the point where you could give up your job as a postal office worker?
I could, but I don't want this as a job. I know there's people out there that do it full time. They're successful at it. I've seen people try it and fail at it. To me, I enjoy it as a hobby. If I turned it into my job, I think I would lose that passion for it.